Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl. I'm here with my good friends, Jason and Catherine and Lori. And today we are continuing our discussion of the book, Love, Life, God by Jared Hewitt. And we are in chapter 10, almost at the end. But before we get going with that, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, you can join us on Facebook if you want to participate with us. Just go to our Facebook group. You can search for Mindset Mastery Collective or go to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and that will take you to our website where you can find a link to get into our group. So, all right, guys, jump out, introduce yourselves, and then we'll get going.
Hey, good morning. Jason here from Tampa Bay, Florida. Good to be here.
Lori Emmons in Denver, Colorado. I agree.
Good morning, it's Catherine Clement here.
Awesome, guys. All right, so we're in chapter 10. Last week we finished up on page 155, and we're reading through the chapter. So Catherine, if you want to go ahead and start reading where we left off or in that near vicinity to that, then we can kind of get our discussion going after we read through a bit.
Okay. So Spirit is talking to Jared, and Jared says, can you give me another example? And we're talking about like synchronicities or things that what we talked about last week and in the previous part of this chapter is how, you know, we're always manifesting whether we know it or not. And sometimes we don't recognize that we are, and we tend to call them synchronicities or coincidences or whatever. So he's asking Spirit, can you give me another example? And they say, certainly, here are a few. 3 people may recommend the same book to you within 2 weeks. Or you may see a TV show and think of the location, I'd love to go there. And a few days later, you find yourself in a place very similar to the location on TV. Or you may be thinking about someone you haven't spoken to in years, and later you get an email or a phone call from them. And I'm sure all of us have experienced things like that. Sometimes it can be instantaneous. You had the experience a few nights ago of wanting to go to a certain restaurant. Not 5 minutes after having that thought, a friend called you up and asked if you'd like to go there to eat. Most people only call events synchronistic when they manifest fast or when something happens that they were consciously thinking of. But in truth, every manifestation is synchronistic because the outer and inner world are always vibrationally in sync. Nothing in your world is coincidence, and manifestation can come as fast as you can allow. Synchronicities may not be the final manifestation of what you have asked for, but they are most assuredly sign points that you are creating your reality and telling yourself that you are going in the right direction. Again, you began writing this book at a time when your industry was slow. You asked, what am I supposed to do now? Everywhere you turned for the next 2 weeks, people were saying, you should write a book. You began noticing authors on TV. The universe was literally going, hello, over here. You just have to know that when you ask, you will receive. After that, simply trust and allow. If you have a hard time with this, use the previously mentioned tools to check your energy and see where you are. Know with all of your being that what you have asked for will come once you are in alignment with it. And know that as you align, synchronicities will abound. Use these to validate your trusting the universe, because the more you can trust yourself in your creation, the easier it will be to let go of the resistance and the stories of creation you have held on to and allow the new to come in. You will see your old beliefs about creation, i.e., I must do this in order to accomplish this, or first this, then that, dissipate. It will be a fresh start. You will be creating from the place we wish to address next, the blank page. And that's where chapter 11 starts. So we'll stop here for discussion. I know I am certainly so very, very guilty of, engaging my mind to try to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And I'm not, if you guys remember personality colors, I'm a blue, not a green. So I'm not necessarily where I plan out every detail, but I certainly kind of have an idea in my mind. Oh, I have to do this, and then I have to do this, and then I have to do this. Like when I was reading the part about, he was told he should write a book, and then he wrote a book. My brain went, okay, I know I'm supposed to write a book, and I'm actually in the process of writing a book, but it's a long process. But that, I think that's because I make it that way. If I would just open the door for that to come in more quickly, then I think that would happen. But I kind of have it in my mind, well, I need to do this, and then I need to do this. I need to research this, then I need to research that. And I need to go visit this group and speak to these people and get their input and do this survey, and and it goes on and on and on. So I think that even the most even those like blue personalities that just kind of go with the flow, we still kind of trap ourselves into having things show up the way that we think they're supposed to show up. And it really blocks us from things, or at least slows things down.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, just like with we've been searching to buy a property now for over a year. It's like multiple months, over a year. And we like to think that, or we want things to happen fast, right? But yet this property that we're looking for has got to meet a number of criterias, or I guess it doesn't have to, but we've put these limitations or conditions on what we want this property to be. And so every time something pops up, the universe is trying to present us with stuff, and we're like, nope, that's not going to work. Nope, that's not going to work. Nope. We keep going through that whole aspect of all these reasons why these different things won't work. And I was reminded at the beginning, or somewhere earlier in the book, it was discussing how Source was saying that people on average want things to happen faster, and that we are trying to manifest things faster. But yet I feel like in a lot of ways the universe is bringing stuff to us right away, and we are the ones that are putting the pause button on. And it didn't used to be this way, but now if you research something on Google, or you research, wherever, if you're looking it up in some way, the next thing you know, you're seeing advertisements for that exact thing that you were looking for. And it's just fascinating to me, because everybody seems to think that it's moving slower, when in reality technology and everything else is making things move faster. But yet we have these conditions of what we're willing to do in any given situation, and because of those conditions, that's what keeps us from getting the thing that we say that we want. Now, I guess part of that is just that we want things in a very specific way, and if it doesn't meet that very specific definition, then we block it. And in a practical way, it seems like that makes sense, like what you're talking about, Catherine, as far as writing the book. You want it to be a certain thing, and you want it to show up in a certain way, and so you want all this information so you can help create it in that fashion. And but if your main goal was just to publish a book and not have a specific book in a certain way, you could write anything in a document and submit it to Amazon, and there you go, you've published a book, right? So we have to I think, recognize that things are happening fast and that we are capable of doing things very quickly. However, it's all of our conditions that make things go slower, because at any point, I mean, there's 100 real estate listings on realtor.com right now that I could easily make an offer on any number of them if I wanted to. If I wanted to just absolutely have a piece of property right this very moment, I could have one, but it doesn't meet all my conditions. And so therefore, I'm actually the one that's slowing down the process. The universe is presenting it right away. So I think it's more obvious than ever how fast the universe will present stuff to us, and it's becoming more obvious to me by the moment. Just in these conversations, it just kind of struck me, oh dang, this is how I'm blocking these things from happening, because it literally could happen right now. So maybe we just need to examine our conditions and determine, okay, what is my real goal here? Is my goal just to have a property, or is my goal to have all of these conditions around this property? And recognize I'm the one blocking the universe by specifying all of these conditions. So anyway, where else are we doing that in our lives?
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And it's almost as if, and using the terminology that was spoken about just then, was are we bring ourselves into alignment, or are we trying to wait for that synchronicity to be in alignment with us? And therein also lies an underlying problem, is that we have the difficulty of even being in alignment and being sure of our alignment, and then we're, us being of our, just our human selves, we may think of the permanence of what we are trying to do, whereas the universe is more fluid and is just like, oh, well, you can just go with the flow, or it can change, it's not really, doesn't have any, it just wants to, apparently just wants to give us what we ask for, but we're not even sure what we want a lot of the times, right? So maybe that's part of it. But then I think that, we say all things happen kind of for a reason, or in its own good time, or it's ready for us when we're ready for it. That perhaps in the grand scheme of things, it will all unfold just as we want it to, or as we need it to, if we allow it. And I'll just close with saying I'm there with you. Like, half the time I will put it out there and try to be in alignment with what I want, but then when that synchronistic event happens, I'm like with Catherine, I'm thinking about the steps. I'm like, well, I haven't gone to these steps, and I'm not actually thinking like, I haven't gone through these steps yet, but I'm in the position, my brain's in the position where I'm in these steps. And so I'm not looking for this other opportunity. So I'm not even aware of it until maybe later on that night. I'm like thinking, I just crossed paths with that person. They said that they studied journalism in college, and that they're out of work right now. And why didn't I make the connection and pick their brain a little bit on how to write a book, or how to create content for my blog, or would they be interested in writing something for my website or something, so it's like not even in the frame of mind to be for that to even show up on my radar, even though it's like right there in front of me, make the connection. So, but yeah, I agree. So.
Catherine, if you knew how many, not just Catherine, but if you knew how many books I've started and how many are sitting in my computer unfinished, because there's so many people involved in the story. I don't want to, I guess, always looking to be accepted and not judged and all of that stuff. When we get our emotions and all that in there, it makes it even more difficult. I am pretty much a methodical person also. I want to get all the things right, and all the teachings you hear about the steps that you're supposed to take or whatever. And I always think, well, who says it has to be that way? You know, and we put limitations on ourselves, and then our history and our emotions and all of that get in there and add more. So how anything gets done, I'll never know. I'll just keep working at it.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it too. You know, if your book involves other people, then you have to consider what impact that has on them. And in my case, I actually have more than one going too. In this case, like, it's about pain, and there's a part of me that says, well, who are you to talk about pain? You're not a doctor. You don't have any qualifications. You're not a neurosurgeon. You're not this, you're not this, blah, 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 you know. But the fact is, for 57 years, I've lived in pain. So I think I'm a pretty good expert myself. So I need to get over that part of it for sure. But of course, there's disclaimers that have to come with that when you write something that you're not, quote, qualified scholastically to teach or whatnot. But yeah, I really think that if we could get our blocks out of the way, that things would come around much faster. And I know just from experience that primarily in poems, but I mean, I've had poems or short writings, whatever you want to call them, like just sort of channel through me. Like I didn't formulate it at all. It just flowed out onto the paper. So even if I would just set, 30 minutes a day aside and just meditate and write whatever comes, the book would probably write itself. And then if I could just get past all of my control issues over wanting it to be a certain way, it would be fine, just like Samantha was talking about.
Oh, I know from classes I've taken that we're not supposed to edit as we go. We're just supposed to write what you're thinking. Excuse me, write what you're thinking about. Don't think about what you're writing. And that helped some of my students, put something down on paper. And then I don't necessarily think it needs to be something that isn't authority on anything, just your experiences. And I don't know, I'm talking here and not doing, so then I have to remember that we are human beings, not human doings, and just boggles your mind. Not sure. I'll let it go for now.
I was just thinking as you were speaking about how that would be how you come up with a title for the book. You try to come up, do you come up with the title for the book first, or do you or do you use your experience in writing the book to come up with your title? I mean, it's like you said, Lori, who is writing the rules for this? Who's to say you can't do it another way? And I would love to hear those poems, Catherine. I think that would be terrific, just to be like, hey, it's a random compilation of poems, and or however you came up with it. That's it. Just all the different ways. It's just striking about all the different ways that we can hold ourselves back when we're really trying to move forward. That's all.
That's probably what I should write my book about, is self-limitations and holding back. And who knows, it'd be a bestseller. I wanted to know how J.K. Rowling just out of the blue all of a sudden is this huge famous author, even though it's not a topic I could write about. I don't know.
And maybe that's something that we could do together, as we're going through our days, to write down all the things all the ways that we're blocking ourselves, and then we could come up with a book of 101 ways you block yourself every day, or something like that, or just a blog post. I mean, how many blog posts are there? There's just a big long list of random things, and that'd be something that we could do. But again, it comes back around to, yes, that is something we could do. We could all make an effort to do it, but there's the but. We all have things going on in our lives that are higher priority, and or we have fears involved, or I'm not going to have enough time. That's a fear, even if it's a minor one. It's still a fear, or a fear that I'm going to spend time on this and neglect other things, and because I've had the same thing happen. I've had ideas popping in my head. I'm like, I had to write a book on, whatever, and yet I haven't even started, and I am, but it's not a high thing on my priority list, and that's another aspect of it too. Is just, where is the thing that you say is important? Where is it on your priority list as to how much effort and energy are you putting into it? And because that's a way that we slow ourselves down also. So yeah, I was going to say something else, but I don't remember what it is. Angel, did you have a thought? Okay. Should we start the next chapter?
I have a thought in regards to what the reading was saying about the synchronicity and the speed in which we sometimes experience those synchronized events. And then also what I was saying earlier about recognizing them and being in alignment with them. And I think the book mentioned that a lot of times we don't recognize the synchronicity of things because they don't happen right away. We recognize the synchronicity of those things that happen right away, but not those that happen after some time. And then it mentions that the inner and the outer of the being of the universe in us is always synchronized, so that I guess time doesn't time doesn't matter, but there's synchronizing events happen, and they could happen both fast and slow. And so I was just thinking what I'm going to try to do is in my trying to be in alignment, and in my affirmations to recalibrate my thoughts and be in alignment with the things that I want. I've got to remember to that awareness of those synchronized events needs to be part of my alignment, and also the being ready to act, the readiness and a readiness factor of it. Not just that, yeah, I want this, and that when it happens, okay, but that I'm and that I'm ready for it to happen, but I'm ready to act once it does happen, and so that because sometimes it's like it might feel like, to recognize really that sometimes it might feel like I'm coming from a dead stop and having to restart a cold engine to act on this synchronizing event, because it's going to happen most likely when I least expect it, right? Or maybe even right away. Who knows? But that I need to be ready, and to not only recognize it but also to act. And so that's what I'm getting out of it. But that the inner and the outer world being in sync at all times. It may it may be backed up with things ready to hand out to us. And as soon as we ask, it might just start be like a slot machine hitting the jackpot. We're gonna be ready to act on what we're asking for, I guess.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how, I mean, if you look back at your life, it just seems like, I mean, yeah, there are things that I have really had to push through to get through, but it seems like most of the stuff that I feel was in alignment with me happened so easy. Those things came with such ease, and it just reminds me, just a visual of, like, you go to open a door and it's a door that you're supposed to push, but you're trying to pull it open, and you're trying to pull it open, and you just keep trying to pull it open, and you just want to bang your head on the wall. What the heck is going on? Why isn't this working? And you keep pulling and pulling, and then suddenly you realize you're supposed to push, and then it just opens so easily, and it's like, oh my gosh, I spent the last hour trying to pull open this door that I was supposed to push. And I kind of feel like, not that I'm looking for always the easiest path in life, but I do, when I start getting to that point where I feel like I'm banging my head, that's a huge clue to me that I have gone off the map somewhere, and I need to get back and refocus and recenter, because something about that either isn't right for me, or I think it's going to give me something that it isn't, or sometimes I think maybe our manifestations are delayed because the universe knows that while we might think we want that, like, once we actually get that's not going to be the thing. Like, it's kind of like one big loop of futility. And so I think sometimes they delay some of the stuff that we think that we want, because they know we don't really want it. It's not going to take us where we want or need to be. And they're kind of hoping that if they delay it a little bit, we'll figure that out and go a different way. So let me go to chapter 11 here. Chapter 11, which I think is really cool, it's called The Still Point, or the Blank Page. So we've moved through fear of creation into intention, and now we come to the place we'll call the blank page. In the past, many of you have been able to move through certain fears and to align your energy and decide to do or accomplish certain tasks. At this point, you've had another choice to make, and many of you did not even know that this was a choice, or that it was, with regard to your story. Most of what you have called creation has in actuality been a recreation of energies or of scenarios, and a recreation of patterns. These have come about because you have been, quote, creating from expectation. You have been, quote, creating from the totality of past experiences. We have come forward today to tell you that just as you can only create in the moment of now, so too can you only create something new from the place of the blank page. It is known to some as the void, or that place from whence creation comes. In terms of energy, it's also known as the 0 point. And that just really quickly brings to mind, I think it was Einstein that said you can't solve a problem from the same place where the problem came about, or from thinking of it in the same way, or something like that. I just totally messed that up. But anyway, go look it up. That's what Google's for. So in physics, 0 point energy is the ground state of any system. Yes, the neutral state of energy. Take this for example. If I want it, or take this for example, I want it is a positive charge, and I don't want it is a negative charge. Not that such charges exist as positive and negative, but we're using these attributes to represent perceived polarities within the energy. The 0 point would be the place where these two come together in absolute stillness. From this stillness arise the limitless possibilities of creation. By bringing in your story, or who you perceive yourself to be, you limit creation. You are saying, I want this thing, yet you are bringing in definitions, judgments, and beliefs, which say to the universe it has to be this shape, size, color, and fit exactly within these parameters, or I can't receive it no matter how hard you try to deliver it. It is a shame to come this far, only to not receive because you haven't let go of conditions based purely on stories. And Jared says, this reminds me.
Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
I feel like this really just brings up, the same thing I was talking about before with this whole idea of, like our property search, for example. We sit here and we're saying we have all these stories around what we want this property to be. And because we're coming from these stories, everything that pops up doesn't meet the criteria. And so, but yet, if we went back to what they call as the blank page, if you will, or the 0 point of anything is possible, then any one of the properties on the MLS would work, So again, it comes back to, okay, we have all these conditions. And so I've set all these conditions, so I'm not allowing any of these other options to be an option, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, if I look at it that way, then I have to decide, okay, which is the most important thing? Are all these conditions the most important to me? Or is having a property the most important thing to me? And at this point, we're still in the mode of all the conditions are the most important. So I kind of wonder, where else can we look at that in our lives to recognize that we are the ones that are creating the conditions. We are the ones that are creating the delay, if you will, in what we want. And so that was just really interesting. And then on a different aspect of the 0 point, I had another thought that just popped into my mind versus it's like not on the creation side of it, but on locating the 0 point side. And so my example is this, is that, you guys know I've been struggling with migraines for, quite a while now. And somebody at some point had said, relating to pain is to just lean into it, if you will. And my idea of that was, it's like most of the time when I'm struggling with a migraine, I'm trying to escape from it. I'm trying to do everything I can to get away from this pain that's in my head. And recently I started doing the opposite, is that when I'm having this pain in my head, that I'm actually digging or diving or leaning in towards the pain, if you will. And which is a weird concept of how do you do that? I don't even know. I just know that it's kind of like this in my mind. I go further into the pain, and the further I go into the pain isn't even there. It's a weird thing. But then when I come back out of it, it's still there, so I don't know what that is, but it's a really weird sensation, almost like the 0 point. Like, I'm having all this pain, I go right into the center of it, and then it doesn't even exist, and that's just a wonky thing. But as soon as I stop focusing on it, then it comes right back again. So I don't know. Maybe Catherine, I don't know, have you ever tried that? I know you've dealt with a lot of pain over the years, and have you ever?
All it made me think of is that you go into the center of the tornado and it's calm and quiet, no pain maybe.
Yeah, I can certainly get to, I mean, I can zone myself out and I can zone myself in. I don't know, I have gone into the pain many, many times, and sometimes I'm able to figure out that the pain is coming from an emotion, or like sometimes I can figure out and follow where that pain is coming from, and work myself through it. And then other times there's just no end to it. There's just so many different scenarios around pain. Pain is a very interesting thing, though, and it really is a call for attention. So I think it is appropriate to explore it and try to go into it, because like I said, sometimes you'll find out that it's just and the most, and I think I've mentioned it on here before, but the most relatable case I think was when I was rideshare driving, and I had somebody in the back seat that was somewhat threatening to me. I was worried about my safety, and I realized after I dropped him off that my neck was killing me, and I went into that pain, and that was just all fear. And of course, when you're afraid, you tense your muscles, but even though I had quote tensed my muscles or whatever, which might have caused that, once I recognized that pain was coming from fear and let that go, because I was now safe and he was out of the car, then that pain went away immediately. It wasn't like I had to put some salve on there or stretch it out or take any of these other physical remedies to fix that. It just fixed itself once I recognized the origin of it. So I do think that's very important. Something that comes to mind, and I know all of us have been into self-development for a long time, so I know every one of us has been in a program or three where they tell you to write out your wish list basically and include every minute detail. And it really makes me, I was always a little bit resistant towards that, but I wasn't quite sure why. And now I kind of get maybe why I was resistant, because I think that can be limiting if you're writing out every detail. I think that you really just have to focus on the feeling that you're going to have once you have whatever it is that is.
That's a good point. The wanting the feeling, or focusing on the feeling that you're going to have. And I follow some Neville Goddard teachings, and in there it talks about feeling it versus visualizing it, feeling the emotional feeling that you'll feel once it is everything that you think that you want. Because, and I think this kind of goes back to the aspect of when you say that you want something, is digging deeper. Why do you want that? And then you dig deeper, and why you just keep asking why until you get down to the core thing at the very center of it. And I think most of the time it's because we want to feel happy, or we want to feel at peace. And if we can just go into that feeling of at peace right here and right now, then maybe the other things will kind of work themselves out. I mean, if ultimately that's what we want, then why not just do that now, right? So but yeah, no, we put all these conditions on. It's like just recently I kind of had this realization that, okay, we've been searching for this property for all this time, and I have all these things that I want out of the property as far as my kind of nature side of myself, and I realized that I was not doing in my current living space the things that I ultimately want from this space that I eventually will get. It's like I was stopping everything I was doing, waiting for this new place to happen. And I'm like, you know what? I just need to focus on doing the things here and now to make my space what I want it to be until that comes along. And so I just recognize a place where I was just blocking my own personal happiness in the moment, which is kind of ridiculous. It's like, why won't I allow myself to be happy right now when, I have to wait until I have this other thing. So anyway. We're at we're at the top of the hour. Do we want to do a stopping point? Do we want to move forward? What do we want to do today? I don't have a whole lot more time. Just to let you know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I just all I wanted to say was in regards to the blank slate or the blank page. I find that pretty useful with the neutrality, trying to get to that neutrality, and I sort of think of it as kind of getting into the flow, and then I'm trying to, I just kind of bring things to the practical, back to the practical side of it. Is like, how do I word that in my mind without creating a polarity, but still giving intentions or recognizing the intentions, or putting it out to the universe that this is what I want to bring about. This is what I want. Again, using the word want or don't want, but I was thinking, speaking about things in kind of a, how do we speak into as a neutral terms instead of coming from our perspective, but in that, like, say, when I think about the things that I would like to happen, or that saying, I do believe that the thoughts are things, and that that it's important, and from what they're saying in the book, that that sort of thing matters. So I was thinking, that I should be thinking how these things are attracted to me, the way, that they're so difficult to put into an actual thought. It's but getting to that blank page, and then being there with the being open, and also at the same time directing what's happening, or is it just that once we're there, it's coming and going, and we now need to be aware and to act and pick and choose on what it is that we actually want to happen. It's to me, and then also relations to the pain discussion, also had to deal with some serious pain, and when I pushed into it, leaned into it, like you said, it was recognizing where that pain went, and then then recognizing all the things that I want, and all the things that were in caught up in that pain, and just letting go, and then just saying, letting go, and then kind of submitting to it. I guess, that's not the right word, but saying, whatever it takes, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this pain to stop, and I'm open to whatever it is that will allow it to stop. I'll let go of anything that I'm holding on to that's causing this pain, and if that's where it's coming from. But because when you're in such deep pain, you can't even think, you can't even focus on the particular things you want. It's just you're all you can focus on. For me, was all I could focus on was just breathing to get through it for the second, for the moment, each second, each breath, and by delving into the pain and then releasing and letting it go, and talking kind of talking to the pain and letting it go, and being open to any solution. I actually was able to get through mine and found a solution to my pain. And so I don't, when you guys talked about, pain being interesting and pain being something to look into, I don't want anything to do with that. I do not want to go back there at all. And I would do anything to let all that go, whatever it was. So, and to keep it away. But I definitely want to be able to get to that blank page and be open and allow that flow, the 0 point event and that synchronicity. Bring it on. Let's bring positivity in the world. And I just love being on here. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been great to see you. Kudos to you, Samantha, for being able to pull it together and switch gears in the middle of this and overcome those tech problems we had that made us come on a little bit late. But you are wonderful, and thanks. And great to see you too, Angela, and you got on. And thank you, Catherine, for everything and for the readings. I appreciate it. And you too, Lori. I appreciate you all. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next week.
It's a good example, actually, of what we're talking about here. This whole getting together today. What's our goal? Is it to be on the computer doing it? Or is it just to be on here, right? Because my computer definitely was not cooperating. And when Catherine reminded me that I could do it on my phone, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, good, couldn't I? I was blocking it because my computer was acting up and didn't even realize there's another option. Kind of like, you were saying earlier about banging your head into the wall or pushing against the door that you're supposed to pull, I mean, sometimes we just get so blinded to other possibilities that we just can't even see them. And we do that to ourselves constantly. But if we go back to the conversation on pain is like absolute. You have it. I mean, not all pain is really, really bad, but when you have really bad pain, it's absolute. You are in that moment, whether you like it or not. And you have to face it in one way or another. And if you refuse to do it, then it just keeps on hurting, and then you make yourself more miserable. And it's like these migraines that I keep having. The one I had most recently was just it was horrible one. And there was no choice but to just stop what I was doing and go lay down. And I could keep on fighting it and just keep having it, or I could go straight into the center of it. And although I wasn't figuring out an emotional connection to it, I was recognizing that, I could just go right into the center of that pain and it wouldn't feel as bad in the center of it, even if it wasn't resolving. I don't know. I just was very, very focused on the very, very point of the now. And so that's not something I want to do every day, but when I have the pain, that's what I'm going to do, is just go right into the center of it, because it seems like it doesn't feel as horrible. But I have to wait for it, I don't know, go away or whatever. So you know, kind of like you break a leg, there's not necessarily an emotional thing connected to it, you know, it just hurts like hell, right? Okay, so any final thoughts, anyone else, before we wrap up for today? Right. Okay. All right, guys, if you're watching out there and you found this conversation interesting, then by all means, click like on the video here on YouTube or on Facebook if you found it there. And if you'd like to join this discussion, we'd love to have you. Just find us by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com, and you'll find a link on our website to get into our Facebook group. So with that, guys, have a great, awesome, amazing week. We'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.